Welcome to the night shift. I'm Kyle Stuke, and this is our first episode, and we might be a little bit awkward as a result because it's a new world for us doing this. I'm joined here by my co-night shifter. I'll have to think of something better than that. Abby Smith, how you doing, Abby?
Hi, I'm doing well. Happy to be a night shifter here with you today.
It's gonna stick, and then we're gonna be like, dang it could have been something better, but
you did this. You made this happen.
So today we're here to talk about Host. It's a 2020 horror film that was filmed all during quarantine, and for that reason and for it just being good, it has gotten a lot of attention and praise. And so when we were trying to think of the first review to do for the night shift, we thought, hey, what would be better than to do a film about the quarantine that was filmed during the quarantine during our review show that is starting during the quarantine. Have I said quarantine too much, Abby?
One more time.
Quarantine.
And done.
Abby, had you heard of this movie before I brought it up for us to review?
I had never heard of it. I'm not really one to look up movies. I don't watch reviews.
So I assume then you didn't watch the trailer for this. You just went in blind?
Not a trailer watcher. I watch movies that you tell me to watch, and that's pretty much it.
I would just like to say Abby does this willingly. I do not force her. It's a loving relationship.
And then you told me to do this review with you, and so here I am.
This film takes place on Zoom. It's one of those. This has happened before. There was the Unfriended films that did this. It was on Skype, though.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yes, I have seen that movie. You were talking about it, and I was like, I don't know if I've seen that or not. It was forgettable. Yeah.
I just remember there's a line in the film that makes me laugh so much, which is where they the Fiend is interacting with their Skype call, and someone's like, oh, it's just a glitch. And then one girl goes, well, the glitch just typed. And I think about that sometimes while I'm peeing, while I'm driving, and I'll just start laughing because it's hilarious.
I don't know.
Was here the whole time?
Ken, you said it was just a glitch. Well, the glitch just typed.
No hate to Unfriended. I actually kind of liked the first Unfriended, but again, not super memorable. All that to say, this isn't a new format for horror films, but it is timely just because everyone is using Zoom or Slack or Google Hangouts and stuff. Before we talk more details, Abby, will you just give us a little synopsis of what the plot is?
So, what's this film all about? So,
Great build-up.
So it seems like this group of friends have these Zoom meeting calls on a regular basis, probably just catching up since they don't get to see each other in real life. And the one hosting the call decides that they're going to do a séance and invites in a medium to facilitate that. And chaos ensues, as you would expect.
Hijinks ensue.
Hijinks. Hijinks and mayhem.
When you booted up the movie, Abby, that makes it sound like it was on Nintendo 64. When you started watching the movie, were you like, oh great, it's one of these? Or what do you feel about found footage / that kind of type of movie?
You know, found footage is really hit and miss for me. So I don't have any preconceptions going into it. I wasn't disappointed when I turned it on and it was a Zoom. I mean, obviously it worked really well for the setting of the film being during quarantine. I actually really enjoyed it because it kind of felt like I was on the Zoom call. I was seeing what I would have been seeing if I had been on that Zoom call with them. So it was kind of fun.
They do a great job of selling you on the Zoom aspect because they have that moment where a character has too many devices on and you get the echo, which I thought was fun that they took the time to be like, we know how Zoom works.
I love that too. It's funny because your voice literally just did this, but where it will almost pause and stretch your voice for a second and then it catches up. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that happened in the film multiple times where it'll slightly freeze and then the character has moved a few more feet down or whatever. Just those little glitchy things.
The glitch is typing.
Well, the glitch just typed.
Let's talk a little bit about this. Again, is a non-spoiler review. We'll do our best. I guess let's just start off with the positives that we thought about this movie. All the characters, their names are based off their I mean, are their real names. So these are all real people, they're all real friends. And so as a result, these characters come across as very believable. You instantly are kind of like, okay, like I buy this group of friends, I get their dynamic. You don't get a lot, which is unfortunate. The movie's pretty short, it's around 56 minutes. You don't get a ton of, when I was a child, I fell into a lake and now I'm afraid of water and that deeply affects my character arc. You know, it's more just kind of like, I'm the silly one, and I'm the serious one, and I'm the one who puts effects on my face. But nonetheless, they're all good, and they're all charming.
I agree. You didn't get a lot from who the characters are, but I did appreciate that they did a decent job of giving them all distinct personalities, whether or not that was a written personality or their real-life personality. Maybe, probably. Normally, I really hate the character who screws everything up and doesn't take anything seriously and gets them all in trouble. But that character is my favorite in this movie because I feel like she's the most believable. Maybe that's because I would have screwed everything up in that situation. I don't know. But
you identified with the screw up.
I identified with the screw up. But I thought they just did a great job of not making you like hate any of the characters. Like they're still people. They're still trying to figure out how to get out of this terrible situation they've created.
Let's get on to the spookiness. I think this movie just is a lot of fun. Like again, it's very short. It gets started pretty quickly. And I just was really impressed with the filmmaking the whole time. I mean, I think it'd be tempting for people to say, oh, it's on Zoom, it's cheap. But it actually requires a lot of like technical prowess and planning for them to get all these shots lined up and to make sure people's reactions are accurate. And then they're also doing stunt work and they have visual effects and they have all these things happening. And sometimes I was like, how did they, like it's like the meme with the math. I was like, how did they do these things? And there was never once where I thought, wow, that looks cheap or that looks bad.
No, they did such a good job of capturing everything on film. And there was only one instance in the entire movie where I was like, why would they bring their laptop with them? You don't have to be on this call anymore. It was a movie, so they had to do that. But they did a great job of making it work for what it was.
This movie does suffer from just logic. And it's one of those things like, again, this movie is super fun. It's super short. It just moves quickly. And I had a good time like the whole time. I wasn't ever distracted by things I didn't like. I just was enjoying it. It does suffer from, when you think about it, there are those moments of, why are you still holding the laptop? And then there's also, there's not an official term, and hopefully we can coin this term on The Night Shift, Abby, because a lot of movies do it, but...
Describe it. What are you trying to do?
It's when the demon decides to drag people and pimp slap them and then not drag them and not pimp slap them. So... it's like, it's kind of confusing because you're like, okay, there's moments where things get dragged or knocked or flung or when characters are being pursued, but then the thing just stops. And so that kind of annoys me in movies because it's like, okay, is the thing wanting to kill them? Is it wanting to possess them? Like,
well, just like a lack of purpose on the demon's end. It's like, it's literally just creating chaos. It doesn't have a goal, which, I mean, at least... I would want it to have a goal. I want to understand what's going on, but... yeah,
and I mean, if you said that, if you're like, hey, this demon, he's just kind of a jerk, he likes messing stuff up, then that could be spooky, but some scares are designed and they're really effective, but then when you think about them, you're like, okay, well, if this thing is, if its goal is to kill people, then it could have done that 30 minutes ago. And so...
right.
It kind of takes away a little bit. I think on like second viewing, I would probably be a little bit annoyed, but I also don't know. There's a lot of Easter eggs and intentionality in the filmmaking, and so there's potentially stuff I'm missing and a story that I'm missing. The filmmaker said that within the first 5 minutes, he foreshadows many of the characters' deaths. He gives you distinct visual clues of how they die, which I think is really cool. Because again, I appreciate that extra touch. It shows that it's not just, oh, I'm going to make a quick buck. These are people who are passionate about horror. They're passionate about what they're doing, and there's real love behind it. And I think that this one has lots of hidden stuff in it. They've mentioned Mike Flanagan's The Haunting of Hill House, which has hidden ghosts in it, and they say they have hidden creepy stuff in their shots. Again, I'm going to kind of be a little bit bipolar here because, again, I really liked the movie, but then it kind of lets me down a little bit with like story and character stuff, because they kind of, again, make it seem like it's really easy to accidentally summon a demon. I don't really consider this a spoiler, but yeah, one character kind of doesn't take the seance seriously, and so the medium's like, oh, well, because you pretended to be sad about someone dying, you made up a person, and that invites something to come and be that person. And it, like, as she said that, I was like, huh?
It's such a, like, it's this really spooky idea, and you're like, ooh, that's creepy, but when you actually think about it, it's like, what? We touched on this a little bit, but the length of the movie is only about 56 minutes, and I love that. I think that the longer a horror movie is, the less scary it is, so I love that mystery. Even though we had a few unanswered questions, maybe wanted a little more character depth, I think that it lends itself to keeping it spooky the whole way through.
I don't know how I feel about the length, because I agree, like, when it ended, I wanted more, and that's always a good sign. Like, I was like, oh, I want it to keep going. But at the same time, it was like 56 minutes. And I'm like, does this count as a feature film? And that doesn't mean the film's like not good for being shorter than like a typical film. But I also, it's like, why is it so short? Now, there's a technical reason, kind of, for why it's so short. If you know anything about Zoom, there's a great joke that comes into play with the film, which made me laugh and scream at the same time.
It was horrifying in the best way.
Yes.
Yeah.
So again, I don't really know what I'm saying with that. I guess I just kind of wish it was a normal movie length, because then maybe we could have got more character stuff. Something that will become increasingly evident to our viewers, if we're lucky enough to have them, is that I really like characters and I like story, and so I'm at odds with horror a lot because we don't always get that. And so sometimes I may be unfairly putting critique or pressure on films to be something that they're not. While it is very authentic of being on Zoom, that does sometimes make it hard to hear and understand. So there was times where I was like, I don't know what characters are saying because the audio is getting dragged, or like it's going over each other and stuff. And so I appreciate it being authentic, but at the same time, I would like to hear what your actors chose to say or what lines you wrote for them. So, but I think with a second viewing and probably by myself, I think I'll be able to understand the dialogue a little bit more.
Sure. There were a couple times that I actually paused and rewound because I was like, wait, what just happened? Because things are just happening you're watching like 6 different screens basically.
So what would you give this film? What's your first night shift rating?
First night shift rating of Host, I think I would give it a solid B.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Girl, we're on like the same page.
I knew it.
Almost different / it is different. I don't know why I said it that way. Okay, I'm going. I'm gonna give it a B-. Again, just some of that demon logic and lack of character and motivation bugged me a little bit, but again, it really does not distract at all, because this film just moves and it's fun like a haunted house. So anyway, that was Host, and that was The Night Shift. We'll be having more reviews. Hopefully we'll get better at it the more that we do it.
Hostfully. How do we say goodbye?
I don't know. I'm Kyle. Bye, Abby.
Bye. Bye, Kyle. I'm Abby. Bye.
Bye.